All right, we are on, everybody. My hair looks like shit, so I'm wearing this cap. Yeah, so I probably shouldn't be doing this. By the way, I hope you can hear me okay. AJ actually bought me a new um, headphone set and mic, so it is on the way. But in the meantime, I'm just going to do it like this. Boy, the way to get people to join in is to have a really crazy headline like, I'm sick of you dumbasses, and cut the bullshit. But this is not a tease. I probably am going to regret this. But because every time that I do something out of annoyance or I'm pissed off or what have you, not every time, but most of the time I end up regretting it. So I'm probably going to come back to this and think, you should have cooled off. But there have been a number of things that have been really and hello, AJ Rebelbird. Hello, Dan Campbell. Good to see you. I'm glad you could make it. Lumberjack Kurtz. Yeah. My hair has to be really, really nasty for me to wear something like this. So I'm about to go actually to the barber or salon and get a haircut. So I'm just like, well, they can wash my hair. Anyway, I'm gonna get to the point. There have been several things that, and hello also to Laura B and Vanessa, if you end up joining my mods. There have been several things that have pissed me off. And I am not talking about it except for any other reason except just catharsis, which is probably really stupid. And I'm breaking my own rules because I'm responding to comments. And, I always say you should just ignore comments. I just like to hit and run, meaning I just like to post things on Twitter or YouTube or Instagram and then 99% of the time not look at comments because I know they're going to tick me off, and they did. But I think it's time just to set the record straight on some stuff. And maybe some of you have some advice for me going forward as to what to do, because I have like several different quandaries, like several different problems that I'm trying to figure out here with this YouTube social media stuff. But let me tell you what I'm upset about. So I did that Nick Rekieta live stream the other day. I did 2 live streams where I talked at first about the Nick Rekieta situation. And so like the first 45 minutes of those live streams, hour, were devoted to the Rekieta thing. And then I moved into other stuff. So I talked about, in one of them, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. I believe, by the way, that Brad Pitt is guilty of what people are saying he did on that plane. Okay. So I'll talk about that a little bit later and how that figures into what I'm pissed off about. But Brad, I talked about that. I talked about, more Manson stuff. So I talked about a lot of things. But the first part of both those live streams, it was Nick Rekieta. And then I saw comments. I shouldn't have read the comments, but I saw comments to the effect of, oh, this is too long and rambly and which I get that a lot. And I guess it's just the professorly way that I communicate, or maybe I'm just not a good communicator. I don't know. But I get that a lot from people, especially in the live streams, whining about how, why can't she just get to the point? I'm trying to get into some deeper shit with these live streams. And I'm trying to go beyond just the headlines or just the main talking points. And I thought people would like that. And again, I'm sure a lot of you do. There's this famous quote by Bertrand Russell, I believe, and it's something to the effect, I'm paraphrasing, but it's something to the effect of, a stupid man will not understand what a smart man is saying because he has to translate it. The stupid man has to translate it into his own understanding. And so he loses a lot of the meaning, right? I would like to think that is the case with these complaints that I get about my long, wordy live streams, but maybe not. Can't have your head in the sand about stuff either. But I thought, okay, so what I'll do is I will take 30 minutes of excerpts from these 2 live streams where I'm talking about Rekieta, because people were complaining that I wouldn't get to the point about Rekieta. So I thought I'll take these and I'll put them into one 30-minute video, and then I'll put that out. And yeah, that'll do it. And so, I transferred clips over to iMovie and I made a video, and then it turns out there was a technical glitch, unfortunately, something I screwed up. And so what ended up happening is that most of that video is just a black screen because it was only audio. It only got the audio. But you know what? my life being the way it is, I've got a lot of stuff going on. I'm super busy. I do have a full-time job aside from this, and I've got a lot of shit going on. And I didn't feel like taking the time that it would take for one video that was probably only going to get a few thousand views to fix that. So I put it out. And so here's the point. All right. I get this comment on Twitter by someone. Well, first of all, actually, I went back and responded to the person on the live stream who said that I was taking forever. And could I just please get to the point? And I made a joke and I said, can you send me some cocaine? And that was just a joke. It was a joke, right? And the joke being that they're wanting me to get to the point. So, you know, you take a stimulant or an upper, you get to the point more, maybe, or maybe you just ramble more. But I made that joke and I posted that on Twitter because I thought it was funny. And then, of course, I get this obnoxious message of someone saying, is it legal to solicit drugs in Texas? And yeah, because everyone thought I was so serious there, right? But then the other comment, this is what got to me. And I've been getting this a lot in the wake of my Ricada stuff. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, the Ricada stuff, then just look at my other live streams, look at the video I just put out, what I'm talking about. I get this comment, this person says, and I get this all the time. This person says, you just are obsessed with defending, or you're obsessed with defending men who are accused of things, and you think all men are innocent, basically, to paraphrase. And I get that all of the time, and maybe not from a lot of you, but I get it all of the time. And it seems like every time I discuss a new guy who is accused of something, even if I take a really nuanced perspective on it, which I think I was doing with Ricada, and I'll get to that in a moment. But every time I talk about a new guy, I get these comments, and most of the time, y'all, it is from people who don't like me, don't support my work, and so I can sort of shrug it off as okay, whatever. But it's also at times from people who do support my work and may support what I'm doing, what I'm saying about one particular guy that they think is innocent, whether it's Johnny Depp or it's Marilyn Manson or what have you. But then if I introduce a new topic, a new guy, even if I'm not claiming he's innocent, even if I'm just questioning the dominant narrative, or I'm just asking some questions or saying, well, here's different ways of looking at it, I get that same response. And it's even to the point where one of my biggest supporters, I don't know if you're watching Lisa Carley, but hello and thank you as always. One of my biggest supporters was telling me about a conversation that she had with someone several months ago who watches a lot of YouTube and is a big fan of, I think, Tug. And she said that this person said, well, you know, Kurtz is okay. You know, she's got some good videos on Johnny Depp, but her problem is that she thinks all accused men are innocent. And it just seems like that, unfortunately, is that perception of something that I have shackled myself with. And I know where that's coming from. It's because I don't do hardly any videos where I talk about men being guilty of things. And this is where the dumbass comment comes in. Because I don't understand why it is so fucking difficult for some people to get that, to understand the fact, to comprehend the fact that different people like to cover different types of topics. And especially if they can find a niche that's not being adequately covered. And so thank you, Larry. I'll get to you in a minute. So I look out at the media, the mainstream media and social media, and I see where it is completely saturated with Me Too coverage, anti-male Me Too coverage, or Me Too coverage that is basically predicated on the fact that men are guilty. These men are guilty who are accused. And so I see that. And then I think, well, there's this other niche over here that I don't think is really being explored enough. You have a few people, you know, like Tug, for instance, with the Johnny Depp stuff. And I haven't been following the Clayton Eshard thing, or Eshard, whatever that is, but that he's covering now. But I really have thought, and I thought this several years ago, and that's one reason why I started covering the things that I've been covering. I really felt like there was a niche and a need for someone to defend the presumption of innocence, and also to take a look at cases where, like Johnny Depp and Marilyn Manson, and perhaps some of these others, they are not guilty, or in some cases things aren't as they appear. and there's something wrong with the dominant narrative. To me, it is just obvious, it is just self-explanatory that that doesn't mean that I think that every man is innocent. And so the problem, I guess, is that people who don't watch enough of my work, or people who are intentionally trying to misunderstand me, and then some people who just genuinely misunderstand, don't get it because for whatever reason, they think that I just think that all accused men or most accused men are innocent, even though I've talked again and again and again about how that is not the case. And I select cases to talk about where I believe that there's something wrong with that the presumption of innocence is being violated, or that these cases need another look. So I'm just so tired of it. And I know that what I should do is just stop reading the comments. And most of the time I do, but every now and then, you want to see what people are saying. And so I should take my own advice. I should shrug it off. I should just keep doing probably what I want to do. But I have to tell you all that it does concern me that, as someone who wants to have a successful career in YouTube or social media, or at least a successful major hobby, and who wants to continue in this, it bothers me that seems to be such a strong perception of me that a lot of people have, that I'm just out here defending men no matter what, and defending rapists, and defending sexual assaulters and what have you. Now, in Rekida's case, what really pisses me off is that if you watch the live streams that I've done about that, and I'll link to them below here at the end in the comments, but if you watch the live streams that I've done, and if you watch or listen to, because yes, the video is messed up, if you listen to the video I put out yesterday, I feel like what I'm mostly saying is I think that he developed a drug problem, and well, alcohol too, but I think that he developed a substance problem, and that things probably got to some degree a bit out of hand. The way that I put it was the mask. When people get into these spirals, or get in really heavy with drugs or alcohol, the mask begins to slip in various ways. I don't understand how that gets in people's minds. That gets translated as I'm saying he's innocent. Now, granted, what I did say also in those live streams, and I really feel this, is that the presumption of innocence is really important. We can't automatically trust a police report or what we know is hearsay, because again, in the Rekida case, the pastor who reported this situation to the cops and expressed concern, he was reporting based on other things that he had heard from a few people. And so what I was trying to say is that we don't have all of the details here, far from it, and that we can't just automatically trust a government narrative. Not that the government always lies or fuck the police or anything like that, but come on. We know that when the government goes after someone, then and get someone in their sights, then they're going to do, I'm not talking about planting evidence necessarily, in some cases, yeah, but they're going to slant things as much as possible, like in that police report, to get a conviction and to validate what they're doing. And I talked about the fact that it's a very small town, that he was very involved in his church and these conservative church community, and that I felt like if he was partying and swinging and what have you, then those people would tend to be looking for reasons to get on his case and to be concerned about the kids. And so that's what I said. That is what I said. I don't know. And I will be interested to see what more comes to light on that situation. But as I said in those videos, I can see a way in which, yes, he's very guilty, and he got in way too deep with the drugs and alcohol, and he neglected his kids, and the things that are suggested about them going 2 or 3 days with some of them without a change of clothes, or what was the other one about complaining about not having been adequately fed or being hungry. It could totally be legit. But sorry, I'll be right back. The cops are here. I'm joking. The cops aren't here. I had to let somebody in. I just don't see why it's not clear to people what I was expressing in those videos. And a lot of you might say, well, it was clear and you shouldn't listen to those haters and stuff. And I'm going to look through your comments at the end of this chat. I'm not able to read through all of them right now, but I'm going to look through them at the end and kind of see what you're saying. But I'm human, and as much as I try to keep a wall up and to talk to myself and say, well, you know, this is not the case, and you're doing the best you can, and you know why you're doing what you're doing, etc., it still, at times, it drives me nuts. And so that's one thing. That's one thing that happened that bothered me recently. And let me just say, before I get into the other things that I'm upset about, I don't know why it is so controversial to some people to start from a position of the presumption of innocence, because I thought that that was something that as a society, particularly as Americans, we generally all agreed on and we celebrate, is the fact that if there's a baseline of someone is accused of something, but we don't have enough information, evidence, what have you, then it's really good to try to lean into the presumption of innocence. And so when people say to me, well, she just thinks that that all men are innocent. No, a lot of men, a lot of people are guilty of a lot of shit. But I do think that we need to lean into the presumption of innocence until we are given good reasons not to. You know, so even in those Ricada streams and videos where I'm saying that, you know, Occam's razor, the most likely conclusion is that if someone is found with a lot of coke like that and they've been observed on their streams, you know, getting wasted and kind of, as I put it, sort of slipping, that yes, it's logical to think that is a very strong possibility that this person, that their lives have been slipping in other ways. But at the same time, there's a whole other dimension to this. And I tried to explain that. So I'm not going to retread it, but I tried to explain that in those videos. And again, I'll link below and you can check them out. Now, let me look at the super chat. Sorry. And then I will get back to this. Larry B says, I love the fact that you stick up for men. They are innocent, obviously. And for men that are innocent, obviously. And for men in general, love you. And I love the show. Thank you, Larry. I appreciate you. Larry B, you call out injustice regardless. Thank you so much. So here's the next thing that bothered me is that in that same stream, in one of those same streams, I talked about Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. And I do believe, I didn't know at first, y'all. At first, when all this stuff broke, what was it, like a year or something ago, about the Angelina Brad situation, I thought, based on what I had read about her, I read a biography of Angelina Jolie. See, this is the other thing that pisses me off, is people think that I come to my opinions without having done the research. And it's so not true. How many of you have read a book, a biography about Angelina Jolie's life? Now, yes, granted, I think it was an Andrew Morton book, or it was Ian Halperin. And yeah, tabloidish, it was Ian Halperin, tabloidish reporter and all of that. I get it. But like, I read a book about her. And, you know, a lot of these celebrities, I keep up with things often over a course of years. And so I read a book about her, and she seemed to me from that book to be, and from other things I've heard her say, to have led a very unstable life, had a very unhealthy, in a lot of ways, background, a relationship with her father that seemed to have been deliberately poisoned unfairly by her mother. Yes, Angelina Jolie's father did cheat on the mom and leave the family, but he has a whole side of that. And it seems like the mom went out of her way to poison the children against him, even though he's never been accused, John Boyd, of any kind of abuse or anything like that. Right. So I look at all of this, I look at Angelina Jolie's history and instability, and even like possible signs of like borderline personality disorder and things like that. And so I think, and then we have with Brad Pitt, we have no evidence of anything. You know, I'm talking about like a year or so ago, no evidence of anything except that he, you know, cheated on Jennifer Aniston. And so I think, well, you know, I'm kind of leaning into thinking that I'm leaning into the presumption of innocence. And I think that this seems shady. Well, then what happened is, as you know, there have been more documents coming out, court documents, legal documents. Now, granted, and they've mostly been from Angelina Jolie's side. And so we have to take it with a giant grain of salt. But there are things that have come out in her court documents, and also independently of that, and even in an interview that Brad Pitt did after his divorce, think it was GQ or Esquire. There have been things that I've learned since then that incline me to believe that Brad Pitt probably was abusive. At least, I don't know, like all the time they were together or whatever, but that there was an incident on the plane where he was blackout drunk and he was abusive to her, physically, maybe abusive to the kids, and was terrifying out of control. And apparently someone reported that, a bystander, or someone reported it. The FBI investigated it, and it seems that there were a number of people in the government that wanted to press charges against him for this incident. And but there was pushback against that. And these things are very dicey and delicate. And Angelina Jolie, it seems, did not even at the time want to press charges. And so nothing happened. Now, do I think Brad Pitt is just some horrible piece of shit person? And I don't know. People can, when they are in the depths of addiction, as I said the other day, particularly like with drinking and getting blackout drunk and all that. And if they're in a toxic relationship or what have you, they can do things that are out of character. So, he's sober now. And look, I hope it didn't happen. I hope something like that never happens again. And yes, nothing's been proved in the court of law. So I wouldn't be in favor of him being canceled or whatever, right? But I'm inclined to believe that he did some abusive shit there. And I have said so. I've said so now on a couple of occasions, and I said it in a live stream. Now, I don't expect everybody to watch my live streams. But the point is, I've said that about him. And I've said that about other men too. I have. I've talked about how I think Bill Cosby was probably guilty. I think that Weinstein was guilty of some shit he's been accused of. Some other stuff I think is kind of a stretch and people kind of piling on or whatever. But I do think that he assaulted some women. And I do think at the very least, he engaged in sexual harassment that is not proper for the professional workplace, right? So Weinstein, Cosby, Brad Pitt, and I initially was Spacey. I've talked about this. I thought that he could be guilty as well, because there were a number of men who were coming out against him and accusing him of things. And there's others I'm not even thinking of right now. Okay. So Diddy's one as well. My first video on Diddy, this was before the really incriminating video of him kicking that woman came out. My first video on him, this is what I said. I said I thought he was probably guilty of some of the stuff in there. It seemed like some of these allegations about assault and stuff were credible and that they could be easily verified. And what I said was different to me about that lawsuit, the original Cassie Ventura lawsuit against Diddy, is that while it was a mixed bag, there were some things that I thought were like, there were enough verifiable claims in there that would have left like a paper trail and a video trail and stuff like that I expected that it was possibly credible and we would know soon. And what happened? Yes, we found out. We found out with that video, right? So I just don't know, y'all. And I've got some more stuff to bitch about in a minute, but on a different subjects. But I just don't know, y'all, what I can do or what I should do to make it clearer to people what my methodology is here with this Me Too stuff, or if I should even bother doing it. I don't know. I've been tempted to do some videos to appease this crowd. I've been tempted to do some videos talking about men being guilty, like to do a more in-depth Brad Pitt video or some of these other guys. And there's even cases that I'm not thinking of right now, like other cases where I think the guys are probably guilty. I've thought about doing a video, or videos, but it just feels like I'm like giving in to the haters and the trolls and the people who don't get it. And also, that's not the niche that I was wanting to get into, right? I started with Johnny Depp videos, not because I wanted to become some Me Too, anti-Me Too person, but I wanted to have a YouTube channel and get into social media. And I was genuinely interested in Johnny Depp stuff. And I'd watched like that Brian Fellows videos and I thought I can do something like this. So I got into Johnny Depp. I was just intending to do like celebrity controversies, but then the Marilyn Manson thing happened, 3 weeks after I started my YouTube channel. And so when that happened, and because it was kind of connected to Johnny Depp, they were best friends, And because there was something inside me, y'all, and this sounds stupid, but there was something when those Manson allegations broke in February of 2021, even before that documentary, there was something inside of me that I felt, you need to cover this. And I don't know, like, there were people telling me not to cover it. There were people telling me that it would hurt my credibility, and especially it would hurt my credibility trying to get into the depth stuff, and people would be alienated and stuff. And I just really felt that for some reason, I needed to cover it. So then what happens is you go one way and you start to get some traction. And so then you go deeper into that, right? And so what happened was, over the course of just covering Johnny Depp and Marilyn Manson, and then I started covering Andrew Cuomo, and I do think that's a BS hoax. That's kind of the niche that I got. So I don't know if I should make more of an effort to get away from that. Keep covering Manson and some other cases, but get away from that, to start doing some videos, even though I don't really want to, about men who are guilty. I don't know. And I feel like part of the problem too is that there's so many people who have opinions about me, not even having watched my stuff. They don't even really know what's going on. Like people, it's not like I haven't tried to broaden into my focus into other things, other topics. I've done political stuff. The problem with, and not like political stuff like firmly on one side or the other, more nuanced, more idiosyncratic. So I've talked about, DEI. I talked a lot about academia for a while when that was really in the news with the Harvard lady. I talked a lot about abortion, which is not necessarily the best thing for me, because I have a lot of fans who are right wing, and then I talk about the abortion stuff, and they don't like it. So in some ways, I'm trying to do something where I'm trying to cover multiple sides of multiple perspectives, and it doesn't always work. But my point is, I did all this political stuff, and I got some new viewers from that, and some opportunities, but I also got a lot of shit from my Johnny Depp, Marilyn Manson fans, because they say, and I see this on like the Marilyn Manson Reddit boards. They'll say, well, she was cool when she was talking about Manson or Depp, but now she's just this like crazy right-wing Trump lover, et cetera, and I just can't stand to listen to her speak anymore. And so I think, well, am I alienating a lot of people with this political stuff? I don't even really like talking about politics, to be honest with you. There's a few topics here and there that I like talking about publicly, but on the whole, I don't want to be like, I really don't want to be like a Tim Pool person or whatever. He's very successful, but I don't want to be Tim Pool. I don't want to be Candace Owens. I don't know what I want to be, but I tried that. I tried the politics stuff. And I've done movie reviews. I've done videos about like interpretations of movies and film and art. I've talked philosophy. I used to do a lot more philosophy videos. But again, the problem with that is that they didn't get nearly the views that my Me Too stuff got. And I don't know if that's because my audience tends to not like that stuff, or if it's the algorithm or whatever. The YouTube algorithm and the social media algorithms, they're such a black box, and I don't know. I don't know. I have had people tell me that they think I'm shadow banned on Twitter, and I still don't even know what shadow ban means. And they'll say like, yeah, I tried. Like, I'm talking about like bigger media figures have told me this too. Like, oh, I tried to look you up, and then I couldn't find you on Twitter, so you're shadow banned. And my inclination is always to dismiss stuff like that, because to me it just seems like things people whine about when they're just not able to cut it, not able to do what's needed to be done to be successful. Like, it's so easy to whine about the algorithm. Oh, I'd have more viewers if it weren't for the algorithm, or my stuff would be more popular if it weren't for the algorithm. But like, to me, that seems like a dumb excuse, but maybe there is something to it. I don't know, but I can tell you that the YouTube algorithm is really, and social media in general, but the YouTube algorithm is really, it is one tough bitch to get your mind around and to figure out what's going on, what you need to do. And so, I've put out other stuff, but it doesn't do well. And I don't know if I need to start a new channel. and then it will push my stuff more because maybe the algorithm is confused because 1 minute I'm doing the Me Too stuff and Johnny Depp, Marilyn Manson, whatever, and then the next minute I'm doing philosophy, and then the next minute I'm doing politics. So maybe there's just too much of a spread there, but I don't know. And I have started a few other channels, and but it's just hard. It's hard to maintain several channels. It really is, at the level that I'm at. If I were higher level, like Tim Pool or someone doing this full time or whatever, or even like maybe Tug or Rakita, it would be maybe easier to balance, to handle. So there's that, like when people say, oh, you just only focus on the Me Too stuff. Well, I would like to be doing more of the other stuff. Like I actually would like to be doing the other things, but except for a small coterie of you, most people are not seeing it, or they're not wanting to watch it, or it's not being pushed to them by the YouTube algorithm. And so then what ends up happening is people have a very skewed idea of what I'm doing online because they're only seeing the Me Too stuff or the most volatile, most in your face stuff, like this. But and it is such a challenge in life. I'll tell you something, and this goes for everything, I think, in life, almost everything. It is such a challenge in life to figure out what voices you need to listen to, what opinions, and also what side of the garden you need to be tending, so to speak. Because for every decision, there is a cost. And so let's say, for instance, that I decided, okay, I want to stop alienating the people or irritating the people who say I just ramble and don't get to the point. So I'm going to just do much pithier, more aggressive, to the point videos, which I've done a lot of, right? But the problem then with that is that people say, oh, she's always just like yelling, or she's just always so aggressive and combative, and like it's unappealing, or she's condescending, or oh, she's just always like ranting, right? And people will say, I've seen on some of the Reddit boards, some of the Marilyn Manson fans who don't like me will say, I've heard the same talking points from her over and over. I'm so sick of it. Well, that's because apparently for other people, it's hard for them to absorb the talking points because they just feel like, oh, it's just a cloud of verbiage. I don't know what she's saying. So my point being that every decision has a benefit and a cost. And so that's, as someone who's trying to get into this industry or this hobby more, that is something that's difficult to figure out. What? Okay. All right. Y'all give me 2 minutes. I'm sorry. Right back. All right. Anyway, let me check super chats, and then I'm going to get back into what I'm saying here. I've got some other things. I've also got really bad allergies today. I mean, consistently because of where I'm living and also my cats. But it's funny because I'm like, I've kind of got a drippy nose, and I'm like, oh my God, oh no. can't touch the nose, then you'll be in big trouble. Larry B says, you love the show, help her out, hit her up with something. She's a creator, hard work. Well, I appreciate that. And of course, I appreciate my supporters and people who give what they can. But this is not, I have done those types of shows before, like fundraising shows, but this is not that, although I appreciate y'all and keep at it if you want to. Like, I appreciate that, Larry, for sure. I appreciate you saying it because I wasn't going to say it. Dan Campbell says, don't forget to check PayPal. Ezra Miller's situation is a perfect example of not jumping to conclusions. All right, I will in a moment, Dan. And Ezra Miller, I don't know shit about that. But if you say so, again, like presumption of innocence, and once everyone starts jumping on a bandwagon, there's unfortunately a lot of nuance and that gets lost. Nancy Niles, $2. Thank you so much. Larry B says, don't you dare. I'm just venting here, y'all, too. Like, honestly, and because I felt like there's just a lot of people who don't get me. And so I thought, if I do something with a really abrasive thumbnail and like a really abrasive title, maybe more people will watch it and then they'll maybe learn something. I don't know. Tony Marie Antonson, thank you for that. The 50. You're being accused of defending every accused man is lame. You are a great advocate for all wronged men. You do a great job. Be proud of yourself. Well, thank you. And again, most of the time I try to keep that attitude. Dan Campbell, Kristen, is it possible to overdo the personal anecdotes and to ramble? Yes, it is. But they are also necessary, I think, to be relatable. The balance is different for each viewer, so you have to decide the balance. That's true. And again, there's stuff that will turn some people off that other people want to hear. And, I used to be a professor, a lecturer, English, and so we do tend to ramble. But also, that's also trying to get at nuance, at times, which maybe some people don't want. Let me check the PayPal real quick. And my PayPal link is below as well. I appreciate y'all. Thank you. I see that, Dan. You said, yes, you're not needed to point out that there are bad people in the world. There are thousands of outlets for stone casting. Due process is more important and more needed. If there were not a lot of people and outlets already pointing out the bad guys and gals and all of in the cases of sexual assault and things like that really happen, then yeah, I might say, okay, but there's so many people doing that work, right? Okay. Kevin Spacey. So let's talk about that. I was kind of a little too bitchy with someone on Instagram. If you're watching, you know who you are, I posted something about Kevin Spacey. Let me put it this way. And it was, he was on Piers Morgan and he broke down and was either crying or fake crying, or something in between, but kind of crying a bit about how his house is being foreclosed on and he doesn't have any money and he owes all of these legal bills. Now, when I say Kevin Spacey, he might've been fake crying, I don't mean that, fake crying. I don't mean that he's really guilty and he's just doing these complete like fake crocodile tears. What I'm saying is, as an actor, I think it's very easy for these actors to kind of lean into certain emotions when it's advantageous for them. So did he really get choked up on Piers Morgan, like against his will? It just like all of a sudden he was overcome with emotion, or is he trying to let people know the hell that he's been through? And so, maybe getting a little choked up gets that done, right? I'm not naive enough to think that someone who is as great of an actor as Kevin Spacey is not going to be inclined to put on a bit of a show when he's trying to improve his PR and trying to get out of this hole that he's in, right? So I get that. But there was a comment when I posted this video of him breaking down, there was a comment that one of my supporters made, and he said, I watched something to the effect of, I watched the documentary about Spacey. I think it's on HBO Max. That's where I saw it, but it's Channel 4 in the UK. This person said, I watched the documentary about Spacey, and it seemed very credible, and not all Me Too accusations are false. Something to that effect is what this person said. And I probably got a little too pissy with this person. And so I apologize if I did. And I'll I'll go back and I'll try to promote what they're doing. I think it was an actor or someone, but anyway, I'll try to help you out a little in some way if I can, right? But this got to me because I watched that Spacey documentary on Max, and they had a number of different men, and these are like different men than the Anthony Rapp guy who was already smacked down by the jury. So Anthony Rapp was the initial accuser. He got this whole thing going. And his claim was that when he was 14 years old, he was on a film. He was in a play with Kevin Spacey, and Kevin Spacey had a party one night for a bunch of people and he had been invited. And so Rapp comes over, and Anthony Rapp's testimony, his claims were that he got tired because he was so young. Even though he acknowledged earlier that a lot of people thought he was of age at a club earlier, but he was so young. I mean, he was tired. So he went upstairs into Kevin Spacey's bedroom and sat down on Kevin Spacey's bed to watch TV alone for a long time until it got to be really late at night. And I guess the party wrapped up and Kevin Spacey comes into the room drunk and thinks apparently that Rapp is there for sexual reasons. And this is what Rapp accused him of. Rapp said that Kevin Spacey kind of stumbled over to the bed, picked him up, and was kind of just putting his body against him. Rapp doesn't even accuse him of groping or what I would think of as sexual assault, honestly. It seems like just a very awkward, drunken pass at someone that you think, is in your bedroom to have sex with you, perhaps, I guess. Rapp said that Kevin Spacey kind of picked him up and then sort of was on top of him with his body, but then Rapp pushed him away, and Rapp made it clear to him that he was not interested, and he walked out. And he said that Kevin Spacey let him go, no problem, but said to him, are you sure you're not going to change your mind? I mean, I imagine Kevin Spacey just like really drunk. Are you sure you're not going to change your mind? I mean, comical, right? Well, first of all, where is the assault in that? To me, I mean, I get he's 14, but I mean, he was in a major play. He talks about how he was very sophisticated for that age, that his mom let him, do whatever, go all around. And he was there at a party late night, and he goes into the host's bedroom and alone and sits down on the bed for hours. And then the drunken host shows up. And I mean, that's not grounds for something to be misconstrued. So anyway, Rapp claims that was some horrible assault, and that's the basis. That's what got all of this stuff against Spacey kicked up, because after Rapp and after this became a big story, then you had a number of other men coming forward, and I understand some of them went to the authorities, but there were 2 trials, and they accused him of groping. I don't think anything else. There were 2 trials. There was the civil trial with Rapp, and then there was a criminal trial in Great Britain, with multiple accusers, and he was cleared by 2 juries, not just hung juries or whatever, but he was acquitted. And the things that came out in those trials, y'all, I'm not going to say that I paid perfect attention to everything that was going on in those trials, but some of the things that came out that were reported, it was just pretty jaw-dropping. Like, it turns out that Kevin Spacey didn't have a bedroom when the whole scenario that Rapp accused him of. Kevin Spacey, it turns out, I guess it was a studio, he did not have a bedroom. So, I mean, there were aspects of these men's stories that were just totally invalidated. And so that's credibility right out the window. But this documentary, some of you probably seen it, this Max documentary about Kevin Spacey, it had some new accusers, and they were mostly alleging that Kevin Spacey used his position, his fame, and all power to try to seduce men, a number of whom were straight, and that he was trying, and basically it was an abuse of power thing, that he was taking their desire to make a professional connection, or to make a connection that would reap professional benefits. He was using that, then hoping to get sexual stuff out of them. Now, there were, as I remember, a couple of guys that accused him in that documentary, accused him of more of that. One accused him of groping, like coming up to him and groping him, and the other accused him of doing something somewhat physically aggressive, like kind of leaning up. He's hitting on him, and then he says Kevin Spacey was hitting on me and was kind of leaning up against me, his body. I'm not saying if those things happened that they are okay, and I've never said that they are okay. I think there are degrees of behavior, and I think there's a lot of context that we don't have there. If Kevin Spacey was going around just truly like forcing himself on men in some kind of physical way, not raping or whatever, obviously, but like in some way, sort of sexually, physically accosting them or coming onto them, and Kevin Spacey knew that they weren't interested or and whatever, then I would say, okay, that's inappropriate behavior. And maybe and we can say it is, and maybe there could be some repercussions, but I don't think a guy should be totally canceled for that. Now, but the problem is, y'all, is that if you watch that documentary, the vast majority of what is alleged in that documentary is that these men, most of whom were straight, as I remember, maybe all of them, these men knew early on that Kevin Spacey, from the way he was flirting with them and stuff and things he was saying to them, they knew that he was interested in a sexual relationship. And they admit this. This is not even something I'm interpreting. If you watch Max, a number of these guys, some of these primary accusers in there, they just say this. They just admit it. They knew that he wanted something sexual. They themselves were not interested in something sexual with him, mostly because they were straight, as I recall. And yet, here's the problem. They admit that they strung him along over an extended period of time, and that they went on private dates with him and met privately with him and hung out with him privately on repeated occasions, hoping that if they strung him along with the hope of something sexual happening, or if they acted ambivalent or like they might be open or whatever, or if they said that they weren't open to it, but they continued to go on dates with him or what have you, that they could get professional favors out of him without having to actually do sexual stuff that they didn't want to do with him. They say this in the documentary. That was what was jaw-dropping to me, is that there might have been one or two allegations of some of this physical stuff that could have been credible, but then when you have all of this non-credible stuff in this documentary, then I have to ask myself, well, wait, what's going on here? And that's where the presumption of innocence enters in then, right? Because if you have something that smells really bad and smells like there's a lot of bullshit in it, then it becomes difficult to extricate what might be more legit. And so you end up on the presumption of innocence. Or I do. I'm like, why are we canceling this man, taking away his livelihood, putting him through hell and all of this in his home and etc., when a number of the men have been discredited in court? We've got 2 acquittals, basically. And then we have in this documentary, most of it seems like bullshit from their own mouths. Y'all, there was a guy in this documentary, a straight guy, who was, as I remember, some kind of an assistant to Spacey or working with him in some way on some show, movie or project. And he said, and he flat out admits that he knew that Kevin Spacey was interested in him sexually and he was straight, but that he wanted so badly to get professional favors from Kevin Spacey that he tried to make himself suck his dick. And one of the things that he said in the documentary is that he was like trying to like psych himself up he wanted to suck his dick because he knew that if he did that, he was like, basically, if I can give him some sexual stuff, then maybe I'll get some professional favors from him, or introductions or whatever. So this guy admits that he consensually sucked Kevin Spacey's dick. But then he said that like partway through it, he was like, oh, this is gross. I just can't do this. And so he stopped. Yeah. Join the club. Millions of women feel the same. No, I'm joking. Good thing he's out of the house now. Didn't hear me say that. This is totally off topic, but I wonder, between men and women, heterosexual men and women, who has the worst deal when it comes to oral sex. That's something someone can explore in a video. It won't be me. Oh man, upsides and downsides for everything, I guess. But to me, that was just jaw-dropping. And then there's this other guy who says that Kevin Spacey came on to me, and then I met him, and I wasn't interested, but I met him for a date at a theater together, and we watched Saving Private Ryan, and he got a hard-on from the guns firing and the scenes of war. They tried to make something out of that too. They tried to make it sound like Kevin Spacey gets off on watching war violence because he was in the theater on a date with this straight guy who was stringing him along, and they were watching Saving Private Ryan, and Kevin Spacey was kind of trying to come on to him, and the guy said that he had an erection, or he was jerking off. I don't know. But I have to ask myself, what were you doing there, sir? I'm not blaming any victims. I'm just saying, like, you knew this guy was sexually interested. He asked you to go one-on-one to a theater to see Saving Private Ryan with him. How many straight guys, once they find out that another man is sexually interested in them, will then go to a movie date with them? I just don't understand. Am I crazy? And so the fact that I watched that documentary and so many of these guys were just flat out admitting their thought processes too. But you know what they said? What they came back to? They said, well, it's just a shame that that someone of his stature would manipulate people based on their desire for career advancement. You know, people look up to you as a famous actor and a leader in your field, and then you take that trust and then you violate it because you manipulate them for sex, you know, with your power and stuff. Grow up. Some of these guys should be embarrassed to be whining like that about their own manipulativeness. So do I know that Kevin Spacey, or do I believe that Kevin Spacey do I believe with great assurance that Kevin Spacey never groped anyone, never groped a man, or never got out of line physically, or never came on too strong? No, I don't. And I couldn't bet my life on it. And I probably won't ever do a video on it. I thought about it, but I'm just like, I don't know. There's still some gray there in my mind or whatever. And that's just not a topic I want to get into. But come on, you can't tell me that there are not giant fucking holes in the case against Spacey. And so in the absence of, there's no evidence. There are multiple people who've been discredited. There's 2 trials now where he's been acquitted. And that documentary has like 80-90% of it seems like BS to me. And so, you know, yeah, I think that he should be allowed to have his career back. And I think that this has been overkill. I do. So, you know, I get these comments that with a sort of a lecturing nature saying, you know, there is merit to some Me Too. Not all Me Too allegations are false. Like, do you really think that I think that? I mean, I'm a woman. I have dealt with men before, and no offense to the guys in my audience, but yeah, there's a lot of like assholes and sleazy people, and men are very sexually driven. I mean, so are women more than you think, depending on circumstances, right? And the person we're talking about. But yes, men are generally very sexually driven, can be sleazy. I get it. I live in a shitty neighborhood. I mean, I like my place and whatever, but I live in a shitty neighborhood. It's basically more or less like the ghetto. Don't get upset, AJ. I know you don't like that word, but it's basically more or less like a ghetto. And I walk a lot because I have to walk with my depression and stuff, which I'm not like me, but I'm just saying I get depressed and walking helps. Exercise helps. It's better than Coke, Ricada. No, I'm joking. See, that's the thing. I'll get people now like Ricada fans pissed off at me too because I'm making jokes, but now they're a pretty rough and tumble crowd. I don't think they mind. But like, I go for walks all the time. I'm like, every time I go outside the house, I'm being hassled in some way by a man. Now, most of the time it's just, hey baby, you want to ride? Or they slow down, or, you know, whatever. But it's like, I'm very aware every time I go outside the house of like some of these dynamics. I worked for a guy, he's dead now, but I worked for a guy when I was in high school, an insurance agent. And he would pay me ostensibly to do like secretarial work for him. This is when I was like 17. He would pay me ostensibly to do secretarial work for him. But what he really wanted was every day to talk to me about his personal life and to tell me sex stories. And one time I came in and he was looking at a Playboy and he gave it to me and like was trying to get a reaction from me. And of course, I was just, I remember I didn't want to show him that he had gotten to me because he really hadn't, honestly. I was just like, this guy's annoying. Even at that age, I was just like, but I remember I took the Playboy magazine and I just kind of flipped through it, you know, leisurely looking at the pictures. And then I finished it and closed it and I just handed it back to him, you know, like it was no big deal. And he just didn't know what to do with that. Now, I know not everybody can behave that way, but my point is, like, I get it. Yeah, there's lots of sleazy people and sleazy guys, and the sexuality is a jungle out there at times. So, but at the same time, media, we know what the media are, and we know what Me Too has become in a lot of cases. And so to me, it's just mind-boggling. And I said today, it's like Groundhog Day for some of you. It's like fucking Groundhog Day, that movie, for some of you, because time and again, we'll see a case where the media got it wrong, and where it turns out there was bullshit false accusers, or there were problems with the accusations, and then that's exposed, and everybody goes, wow, there's another bullshit Me Too case. But then the next time something else comes up where there's a new guy who's accused, then it's like Groundhog Day. All of a sudden, we're back to just gullibly believing the media and believing accusers. So that gets old. That definitely gets old. All right, I need to look at the super chats. The problem with doing a video like I'm doing right now is it also feels like I'm fishing for compliments, because, people say nice things and they want to make me feel better, and they have positive insights, and I really appreciate those. But I know that's how it can come off. But, I just feel like getting on here and telling you what I'm thinking. Okay. We got that comment earlier. Thank you, Dan, again for that. Here we go. Curious Georgia says, you and your channel are in transition. Her depth trial brought a lot of dummies and trolls to your stream. You shine when you speak your mind and share your educated perspectives. Chin up, Buttercup. Now, I will say this. 666 Marquis says, love you, CK. There's lots of idiots out there. Don't worry about them too much. No, I know. And I was just lecturing people the other day about just ignore it. But, it's kind of like physician, heal thyself. Mrs. Zombie, behind you, always, CK, keep going. Thank you. All right. My nose is running, and I'm like, should I blow? Which looks more like I'm doing cocaine, to let it keep running or to blow it? But I'll be right back. I'm coming. Is this camera on? No. Little Ricada humor there. It's very hard to, thank you. Well, even now, I appreciate that, Larry. It's very hard, by the way, to cover this Ricada stuff and to know like how to do it in a way that's ethical. Because on the one hand, if the worst that people are saying and that the government is suggesting is true, then he has a big fucking problem in terms of substance abuse and addiction, and it bled over into his life, and he's had some real issues as a dad, at least recently. But on the other hand, if it turns out that this is that the narrative that we've gotten is distorted, or it's not the whole story, or that there were people in his church or whatever around him that didn't like the lifestyle and basically then were distorting things or saying things that weren't true or what have you, then he deserves our sympathy. And so, I mean, either way, I empathize, but it's hard to know how to cover that, because part of me wants to make some jokes about it, like I was just doing here. And I know he would be making jokes too, but then, part of me is like, well, take it seriously as well. So I don't know. It's hard to cover. It's hard to cover things. That's the other thing. Talking about this controversial stuff, and I'm not just talking about Ricada right now, but all of it, talking about this controversial stuff, there are so many times, y'all, where I ask myself, am I doing the right thing? Or should I be doing this? The nature of social media and YouTube is that it tends to reward more abrasive, clickbaity content. And so there are many times where I'll put things out to get more attention, but then I think, I really don't like the way that comes off, or that represents me, or that's not how I am, right? But if you want to get in this arena, you want to do this, then you have to make compromises. So there's always ethical questions, unfortunately, about stuff. All right, I'll tell you something else since I'm unloading. I used to, when I first started doing the Johnny Depp and the Manson stuff, I used to be much more open about talking to people, taking comments, reading DMs, responding to DMs, and so forth. And what happens is, of course, you get a bigger audience, and so just logistically that becomes more difficult. But also, here's what I have found, is that there are huge minefields with your supporters. I'm not even talking about haters now. I'm talking about with supporters. There are huge minefields, because a lot of people are kind of on a hair trigger about stuff, even when they like you. And in fact, there are a number of people who like you a lot just as a prelude to then turning on you and then trashing you or hating you. And that is a weird social media phenomenon. But I'll give you an example of something. And I'm not going to say this person's name, and I'm not going to say anything that's going to identify them. But there was someone, when I got into this Manson stuff, there was someone early on that became a real like friend of mine, fan of mine, whatever you want to call it, online, and someone that I had done some collaboration of some kinds with. And not anyone that I've done a lot of videos. People are going to think it's like Celtic Iron or something. Celtic Iron and I had no falling out of any kind. He's just decided to go really much more deeply into his professional stuff with the porn industry. And so just less of the YouTube and whatever. So no falling out there. But what happened was with this other person is I tried to give them some advice and friendly advice because they weren't getting the views that they wanted to get. And I'm not getting the views I want to get, right? But they weren't getting the views that they wanted to get. And I thought that their content was really good. And so I gave them some advice about like how to make it more clickbaity. And I said, you can be maybe a little more abrasive with your titles, a little more clickbaity with your thumbnails and stuff like that. And so anyway, what happened was over the course then of a couple of years, this person got upset with me. We had a difference of opinion on another YouTuber, and they thought that I shouldn't be associating with this YouTuber or doing shows with this YouTuber. And I disagreed. And then they just got really pissed about it for whatever reason. And so we kind of had a falling out. And I knew this person was going around, online saying a lot of bad stuff about me, but whatever. Well, then that went by the wayside, and the person kind of warmed up to me again. And being a forgiving person like I am, and knowing the insane nature of what we're doing here with social media and how it distorts all human interactions that you try to have through it, I said, okay, no problem. It's all forgotten, whatever, and let's move forward. And so then I asked this person several months ago if they wanted to help me with this documentary that I'm doing on Manson. And I said they could help as much or as little as they wanted. Well, not as much as they wanted, but within reason, they could help me a pretty good bit, and or not at all, whatever. And my idea was that they would do maybe a couple of sections of the documentary, and then I would put it in with my documentary, and they would have like some cool stuff there that they did. And maybe if Marilyn Manson saw it, they could take pleasure in the fact that Manson had seen this and whatever, right? So I guess my point is, I thought I was doing this person a favor, and it never occurred to me that it would be misconstrued as that I was trying to get free work out of this person without paying them, and was like trying to leech off of them. Because honestly, my thought was, I have a bigger audience than this person. My videos do better, etc. And I'm putting together this documentary that I think could be a cool thing. And I'm like, I thought I was doing them a favor, And so anyway, long story short, this person some time ago posted this long rant on Instagram. And I appreciate that this person did not mention me by name, but basically complaining about the fact that I had pressured them into changing their YouTube into something they didn't want it to be, and was telling them that to be successful, they had to use, abrasive, vulgar titles and catchy thumbnails. And basically that I was like pressuring them to change their style and to go down a path they didn't want to go down. And then that I was trying to get free work off of them, basically was the insinuation, not offering to pay, and trying to get them to do this documentary. And look, this is all just like, I know it's a lot of bullshit that nobody cares about. But my point being that the more you do this stuff, the more you see that it really is true often that no good deed goes unpunished. And so you get then a lot more sort of careful and insular about stuff. And you think, okay, well, if I talk to this person, or if I develop a relationship with this person or whatever, when are they going to turn on me, basically? And so, that's another thing that has been, that's another thing that has been problematic is getting used to that, because once again, I'm in a position where on the one hand, I would like to be talking to people more and on DMs and so forth and reaching out more and getting constructive contributions and criticism. But on the other hand, it seems like when you do that, you're really opening yourself up then to a lot of potential bullshit. So all of this is to say, and I'm not even sure now why I started it, but which I knew I would feel. But all of this is to say that there are lots of things that I am doing right now that I have a reason for and a methodology for, and that it's just not getting through to some people. I think partly because some people are just not watching much of my stuff, and some people are bound and determined to misunderstand me. And then also it's the nature of the medium. But I am at a point of transition, like one of you said in the super chat. And I just want you all to know that I really am trying to work on other things too. I never saw myself when I started this as becoming a voice, an anti-Me Too voice. And I didn't even think I was going to be sticking with the Johnny Depp stuff, really. I just thought this is what I'll start doing, and then it'll get into whatever I want, other stuff. And so I am rethinking what I've been doing, and I'm not going to step away from the Manson stuff. But I am thinking about other creative outlets. I'm thinking about submitting some screenplays to different competitions. One of them actually is Coppola. So Coppola's American Zoetrope is having a competition for screenplays, amateur screenplays. And so I'm thinking where you can, like, if you are a finalist, you get consideration, Hollywood agents and studios looking at your stuff and things like that. And Coppola personally reading your script. So I'm looking at things like that. I'm looking into even my guy who's really into music. He's been trying to get me to lean more back into. I used to do some singing with a band that he was in. He's been trying to get me to lean more into that and to get back into doing some music. I don't know, because that seems like a whole other ball of wax that I'm totally not familiar with, right? But my point being that I really am in a period of transition. And so what I want to say to you, all of you, is I appreciate your support, and just understand that at times, if I dip my toe into something, or if I go one way and it seems like, oh, this doesn't make sense or whatever, normally I do have a methodology, and with the Rekieta stuff, I'll tell you this, it's not like with Rekieta thing, I'm trying to find another person to latch onto and say, oh, this person's innocent. Because again, I don't know, and I'm not asserting that. But what I see with the Rekieta thing is that there's real potential, honestly, for this to kind of blow up more in a self-serving way. I just have to say that, because like when the body cam footage comes out, people are going to be talking about that and watching it a lot. And I see like a lot of kind of obnoxious commentary. Not everybody, but there's a lot of obnoxious commentary on the Rekieta stuff. Aaron Imholt. And so, I try to come in here and do something a little more like nuanced, and some people might think, oh, it's rambling or whatever. When's she going to get to the point? But that's what I'm trying to bring to the table. So we will see. But let me look at your comments here. I don't normally have a lot of time to do that, but I'm going to do that right now, because I guess that's really all that I wanted to say. AJ says, people that you've never met can get lost. You say what you want. It's your channel. No, it's true. It's very true. Thank you, Vanessa, for putting that up there. It's my PayPal. It's also in the description below. Thanks, Rebel Bird. Oh, I know what I want to talk about. Oh, wait, there's two things. Danny Masterson. I fucking rue the day. I curse the day that I ever posted a single fucking thing about Danny Masterson and House and Habit. I was never going to even get into the Danny Masterson thing. Left it alone because I assumed that he was guilty, and I still think that he's probably guilty, which I've never wavered from. But House and Habit, you remember this, some of you, maybe if you follow her or you were watching my channel then. House and Habit, that huge Instagram site, she had some quotes from a celebrity or someone close to Danny Masterson or close to his wife or what have you, this person was bringing in some new information or suggesting that there were credibility problems with some of his accusers, or at least one of his main accusers. And House and Habit got so much shit for that. And even, as you'll remember, her Instagram got temporarily shut down, not for saying that Danny Masterson was innocent, but just for putting, after he was convicted and he got, what, 20 years, for putting an alternate opinion out there. And when I saw that, when I saw the shit that she was getting, and when I saw the guts that she had to do that, because everybody hates Danny Masterson and everybody assumes that he's guilty, and he was one of those cases where it's just like opinion is almost uniform among people that he was guilty, and everybody hates Scientology, which I get. It's crazy, repressive cult, but I saw what House and Habit did, and I saw the shit that she was getting, and I really admired her guts. And so I felt like she was taking all this fire alone. And so I thought, I'll get in the trench with her, and I will defend her right, at least, to put alternate information out there. And then as I did that, I started looking a bit into the Masterson thing, and there were some things that troubled me that didn't seem right. But I totally admit I did not watch, I did not pay attention to the trial and the ins and outs of it as some people did for months and years or whatever. I didn't. But there were some things that bothered me. But I'll tell you what really set me off on about the Danny Masterson thing. And this is what I made a couple of videos about. I hated all of the shit that Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis got for writing a letter attesting to their experience with his character to try to get a more lenient sentence from the judge. You know, this happens when people are going to be sentenced. Then people ask for letters of reference, and people who have positive things to say or who've known someone in a positive light, then they are allowed and encouraged to submit their impressions to be considered in sentencing. He was already found guilty, and they were just, Mila and Ashton, they were just submitting a letter that they thought would remain private, submitting a letter to the judge, giving the judge a different perspective. Not saying that he was innocent, not saying that his accusers were lying, none of that. Just saying, hey, when you're about to sentence this guy to 20 years and take away his relationship with his wife and his son and all of that, maybe rightly so, but here's our experience. Keep that in mind. And they got so much shit for it, and they got so much shit for it from Masterson's primary accuser. What was her name? I can't even remember now. Chrissy. Oh, I'm blanking, but whatever. His most vocal, most recognizable, prominent accuser. And she just went on the warpath against Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis and was basically trying to get them canceled. And there were a bunch of people on them. Now, I'm not some huge fan of Ashton Kutcher or Mila Kunis, but I just thought that was wrong. And it did piss me off at her. And I thought that she was being unreasonable. And I didn't think that it made her look like a really credible person. And of course, as you'll remember, the jury that convicted Masterson, they did not convict him based on her claims or testimony. She got kind of, as I understand, a split vote. Some of the jurors thought she wasn't credible. So I did a few videos defending House and Habit, and also defending Ashton and Mila, and calling out the Chrissy accuser for overstepping and being ridiculous and being unjust in going out and trying to get Ashton and Mila canceled. And you'll remember too, she was threatening Ashton with like inside knowledge about, there was that ex-girlfriend of Ashton Kutcher's who was murdered. And there were questions as to whether Ashton had reported it as early as he could have or whatever. I don't want to get into all of that. My point is that this Chrissy woman was now at this point threatening him with stuff that she would say publicly to get him canceled and ruin Kutcher. And I didn't think it was right. So I did 3 videos as I remember. And in every video, do y'all know what I said? I said, you know what? I don't know if Masterson is guilty or not. I think he probably is. I've assumed that he was. I think he probably is. And if I have time to look into this, I imagine that at the end, I'll probably still think that he was guilty. And for that, I have now been saddled with this label of someone who thinks that Danny Masterson is innocent. And I get this still repeatedly. People saying, oh, yeah, but she defended Danny Masterson. Oh, my God. Yeah, you'll defend anybody. You even defend Danny Masterson and Scientology. I've read a fucking book about Scientology. I read that book, Going Clear. It's like thick as a Bible. I read that. And so my point just being that it is so frustrating when things that you didn't even say and you didn't even claim, people twist that around, or they don't know better, and then there's this whole other narrative about you out there. So again, I don't know. It's probably something again to shrug off, but that is something else that for a long time has bothered me, because I keep seeing that coming up and I keep seeing that getting brought up. So, if I could go back in time, invent a time machine, go back and stop myself from making any Danny Masterson videos. Oh man, I don't know. And I never had time to look into it. I wanted to, but I never had time to. And I thought this is one just to leave alone anyway. But I don't know. I remember the first movie I saw Masterson in, Face Off, where he played, wait for it, a rapist. I did not know that, really. Oh, man. Uh-oh. Okay. So what do y'all think? Is this good? Is there anything else I should say? I think I got to the point here. So when I say I'm sick of you dumbasses, I'm actually not talking to anyone in particular, except maybe the trolls and the people who really hate me, and I'm sick of them. But my supporters, I understand that you don't know me, and every now and then it'll look like I'm doing something and I'm not, or you don't get the full story, or you don't see my videos in their entirety, or what have you. So I get it. But I am at a point of transition, and I am trying to think about, besides the Manson thing, what do I want to keep doing some Me Too stuff? I think Me Too, everyone's almost like over it, aren't they? Isn't everyone just sick of it? I know there are monsters out there, and I know there are bad guys, but I think people are just truly so sick of Me Too. And yet there are still consequences. Like, there are still people who are canceled, financial trouble, and whatever, and trying to come back. So I don't know. But anyway, anything else I need to touch on? Dan Campbell says screenplays. Yes, that sounds fucking great, Kristen. Any of them rejected, then consider sharing only. If any of them are rejected, then consider sharing only those months later. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you approve of the plan. I'm going to do that. I have an idea for a novel that I've been working on. It takes so much time to complete a novel. And so I have something that I've done like some chapters of, but I think I'll just try to turn that into a screenplay. So anyway, all right, everybody. Anything else I should cover? How long have we been here? Oh my God, it's been an hour and 15 minutes of me ranting. Oh, that time flies when you're ranting away. Okay. I appreciate y'all. Check out my other stuff. And what am I going to be doing next? There was something I had in mind. Think about it. It's escaping me now. But anyway. All right. Love y'all. Appreciate it. Don't take this too seriously here. It's just me venting. And it's good to put stuff like this out here and get some extra views, maybe some extra people paying attention. I heard a rumor that the Ricada body cam footage might be coming out today on Kiwi Farms. I don't know. I don't keep up with any of these things. I don't even know what Kiwi Farms is, but I've been hearing more about it lately. But anyway, I don't know. We will see. If so, I will cover it. And love you all. Thank you to my mods. And let me make sure that I'm not missing anything else. My links are below. All right. All right. We are good. Thank you so much. Oh, John Walker. I see. Or no, John. Yeah. Let's see. I see. Oh, John says, keep up the good fight, CK. Thank you. And Anna says, you were great. Keep doing what you're doing. I appreciate y'all. All right. My chin is up. I'm good. I will see you later. Bye-bye.